Welcome back. You're watching Sunday Edition, Kenya's first and only Sunday morning political show, where we dissect the big political issues. And the big issue that has been for the last 2 weeks or so is the issue of the second and final phase of the mass voter registration by the IEBC. They are targeting between 4 to 6 million new voters on the voters register by August 8, 2017. So let's now analyze, and here is KTN News reporter Moremi Mwangi with an analysis of the first 10 days of this mass voter listing exercise and which regions are leading in terms of the new registrations. Let's take a look.
With the race to State House already at fever pitch, Kenya's key political contenders have for the past 10 days cast their nets far and wide in spirited campaigns to show up their numbers in the ongoing mass voter registration. By Tuesday this week, the exercise had netted some 825,000 new voters.
Kama kuna vita ambayo itakuweko, itakuwa vita ya kura. Watu wachukue kura, watu wajiandikishe, watu wapige kura, uamuzi wa Wakenya utawale.
Mimi nataka ikifika tarehe 15 mwezi ujao, niambie Uhuru ya kwamba mimi niko na tyranny of numbers. Mko tayari?
According to the latest figures released by the IEBC Tuesday, the perceived Jubilee strongholds of the Rift Valley and Central Kenya were leading in the registration of new voters. Rift Valley with 169,000 and Central with 140,000. CORD leader Raila Odinga's Nyanza stronghold had netted some 96,000, while the Western Kenya home turf of National Super Alliance NASA Supremos Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula had registered some 75,000 new voters by Tuesday. Analysts argue these trends could be a key determinant in the selection of NASA's flag bearer to face off with President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Jubilee has boots on the ground looking for votes. NASA is in the air. They will not succeed. Yeah.
Kuna watu ambao wanatu let down. Wanasema, kakuheku kindu kidididi, tupatie kitu kidogo. Wewe, hii kura, kwani unafikiri ni ya nini?
You know, when we say you go and register so that you fulfill your civic duty, how much of that is understood by the ordinary person who has been voting from 1963 up to now and has hardly seen much coming out? So the long-term plan is for us to educate our people.
You hear that within 5 polling stations, there's one biometric voter registration kit, and then it breaks down. And why it only coincidentally breaks down in Makueni and in Mombasa are things that are premeditated. Technology cannot always be failing only in the opposition strongholds.
A recent admission by the electoral body that up to 128,000 identity card numbers are shared in multiple registration of voters has put the ruling alliance and the opposition coalition on a collision course, while some observers have cautioned that this flow could complicate matters for the IEBC, which is yet to kickstart audit of the voters register.
It doesn't work like that.
Former commissioner at the defunct Election Commission of Kenya, Jack Tumwa, argues that the admission of the error initially pinpointed by CORD leader Raila Odinga was a bold step by the IEBC towards redeeming its transparency.
We have set up a team of registration officers and ICT operators in our commission who are conducting the further cleanup.
If you can register twice and the system can't flag you out, there's something wrong. It's like going to withdraw 20,000, the only money you have from the ATM, And then you look for another ATM and still withdraw another 20,000.
We want to be told that the police are following up these 21,000 people who double registered. The others, it could be clerical mistakes coming out of the registrar of persons or even the electoral commissioner clerks.
The political landscape will no doubt be a charged one in the next 2 weeks as both political camps wind up their hunt for the votes.
We are asking Raila Odinga, do you want election or you don't want election? If you are not prepared, we understand your scenario.
Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, Wetangula, and our party leader are talking about genuine claims about a botched system. And you are updating us about statistics. We don't want to know how many people have turned out, but we want to know what you are, as much as that is important, we want to know what measures are you taking to redress the anomaly.
With the stakes high in the race for the country's top seat, the main political protagonists will no doubt be changing tacks in the coming weeks as the grassroots voter mobilization campaigns intensify. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Right, the country enters the third week this coming week of the second and final phase of the mass voter listing exercise, where, as we told you before, the IEBC is targeting between 4 and 6 million new voters. So far, those are the latest numbers according to the IEBC. They are hoping that Kenyans will come out even in larger numbers in the next 2 weeks, in the final 2 weeks of that mass voter registration exercise. First of all, Prof, what can you take? What is your takeout from the first 2 weeks, the first 10 days of the voter registration, the intrigues that have been coming, the campaign trail, what the politicians have been saying, and what the IEBC is recording as voters?
The weakest point in this exercise is the IEBC. In other words, their capacity to do the right thing was put into test the first week. In other words, at the moment, they should be interrogating their systems and their procedures to make sure that they are technically adequate,
right,
so that you don't get these problems. Secondly, to me, the politicians, through the registration process, have brought the campaign period forward. The campaign has started. For example, for Raila, he's been always campaigning. Now, the president has also gotten out, he's running around campaigning under the guise of registration, because he's not telling them about just registration. He's telling them, you know, I have done this, I've done this. As a result, he has exposed himself to interrogation by ordinary people. They are telling him, like you saw in Kiambu the other day, like you saw in other areas, he's finally being asked questions. You pledged this, you pledged that. So one of the things that is required at the moment is that what IEBC is doing, and the attempt by political parties to service the IEBC agenda, those two things are still not in sync. What IEBC is doing and what the political parties are doing are not in sync. And above all, the citizens are being talked at. They're being told what they should do. Nobody is asking them what problems they're experiencing, so that where they are not registering in large numbers, what are the constraints?
All right. Do you agree, Jared?
Well, Ben, I would say that what we are witnessing today is Okoa Kenya reincarnated. We had intended to move across the country, mobilizing
people. But Okoa
people.
Kenya was dead in the water at some
Yes,
point.
well, it has come as a blessing right now, because our main intent was to go across the country, gauge people's, confidence, particularly regarding to the current government, and also to sell our policies. But that was bought by Jubilee administration through the, the retired IEBC commissioners. So when this opportunity came forward, it is actually called NASA that firstly took the opportunity by calling all its aspirants and elected leaders in Bomas. 2 days later, Jubilee also called its adherents at Kasarani, But let me tell you, sometimes it becomes very difficult to copy-paste somebody else's prototype. And that is why Jubilee is meeting challenges as they go across this country, heckling every now and again, because they are stealing something that we had originally planned to do as called fraternity. But this is also equally important. A person in the caliber of Raila Odinga can have somebody else registering under his identification number. Somebody in the caliber of Kalonzo Musyoka is having somebody else registering in his name. So these are critical questions that we are asking. But one thing that is taking everybody aback is that when there is an issue of double registration, then the second person must either be from Rift Valley, Kalenjin region, or Central Kenya. So is somebody working towards interfering with the electoral system come August this year? These are fundamental questions that we must raise. But let me tell you, even at the time when we were still analog, and you wanted to register a company, and you went to the registrar of companies, they will carry out a manual search and tell you that this name already exists, and therefore you cannot register with the same name. That was then. But now, even in the computer era, with the BVR machines, they can still allow somebody else to use somebody else's identification number. So we are asking very serious questions, and that is just something on the surface. Right. The second question that we are asking is, with all these abound, is it true that Rift Valley has netted 169,000 voters?
Yeah, we'll come
to
that.
Is it true that Central has 139,000 voters?
That's a fundamental. Those are fundamental questions. Mheshimiwa, has Jubilee been copy-pasting opposition's agenda in how it's doing its thing?
You know, what I will tell viewers is, Ben,
yes,
there is nothing like copy-pasting. First and foremost, let me remind everyone watching that it is within the law that for every Kenyan above 18 and who has not registered as a voter should do so. And it is also within the right of the same person, he or she votes when that time comes. So everyone, for the last almost over 2 weeks, have been on the ground. In fact, I came yesterday night. I traveled at night because of this show. I've seen leaders, both political and non-political, mobilizing our people. And we had to meet, sit, and agree that it is our responsibility to educate our people. Now, about who is copy-pasting what, I think that is not here nor there, because everyone has that obligation, has that duty to ensure where you represent, or where you hope to represent, or where you are serving Kenyans, any part of the country, those people are registered voter. A critical question you posed about a high EBC. I think we need to understand this time is time for registration and checking whether your particulars are right within the IEBC. There will be an audit, and that audit will expose so many issues that will have to be corrected before the next general election. So whenever anything is exposed by IEBC that we are finding this mistake, or we have realized we have this mistake, that should not be taken as though it is an intended error or a commit by the IEBC.
Let me be the devil's advocate. This must. There will be issues here and there, hitches here and there by the IEBC. Is it fair for the opposition to always, when something like that happens, say that that's a plot to rig? Or is it okay?
Well, you know, now when you talk about copy-pasting and blaming IEBC, number one, fundamentally speaking, it's not up to Mwangangi and the political class to ask Kenyans to go and register as voters. It's supposed to be the primary responsibility of IEBC. But because of some reason, IEBC is unable to marshal people to go and vote. that's when the political class is coming in, because at the end of the day, it serves their interest. If they don't have enough number of voters, then they're not going to retain their positions. And in my view, Jubilee has done a very good job in voters registration, and I think one can easily give them an A. And indeed, if they copy-pasted the code strategy, then they've done a very good job from the numbers that you see from last week. And for Jubilee, they do not merely tell people that go out and register as voters. They've got a grassroots strategy of ensuring that anybody above the age of 18 actually gets an ID card and is given facilitation or even assisted. I know of some incidences where border riders have been given targets to go get people to go and register as voters. So for that, you have to give them credit. They've done a very good job. They score an A. Well, on the other hand, CORD is clutching on straws. They're looking for every single reason to blame IBC. They're clutching on straws, and really that's bad. You know, for them, what they do is they go and do public rallies. They get their leaders from NASA addressing the crowd, tell them to go and register as voters. But, you know, it's not followed by action. And I think by the time we get to the mid of February, the probability of Jubilee winning this election is very high unless Honorable Keloya and company review their strategy. Because, you know, the numbers never lie. And then number two, and probably more important, one wonders why we actually need to register as voters. Because for you to be registered as a voter, you need to have an ID card or a passport. Why can't Mwangangi and company at the National Assembly just pass a law and say, provided you've got an ID or you've got a passport, then you just go and vote? Because we are talking of a government with the institutions that are pulling in different directions. If you would have said that provided you've got an ID and a passport, then you're qualified to vote, we'll not be wasting a lot of resources in voter registration.
Okay. Well, I want us to take a look at the numbers. Before we do that, let's talk to Ali. He's calling us in from here in Nairobi. Ali, good morning, or is it afternoon?
Good morning.
Ali, can you hear me? Can you hear us? Good morning. And what do you think about this issue, the race for numbers? What is your take? Endelea tafadhali.
Nakupata, lakini sasa kitu yenye mimi ningependa kuelezea hii tume ya uchaguzi IEBC. Halo?
Swali, toa maoni yako, tunakusikia.
Okay, maoni yangu ni kwamba tume ya IEBC. Halo?
Ongea, tunakusikia.
Okay, kitu ningependa kueleza wana IEBC ni kwamba wajaribu kurekebisha mitambo zao, kwa sababu kitu ambacho kinafanyika na mitambo ya IEBC ni kitu ambacho kinatutia wasiwasi sana. Manake iwapo kuna sehemu kadhaa hata ukienda kuangalia kadi yako ya kura utapata imerejistiwa na mtu mwingine. Ni jambo ambalo linatutia hofu. Kwa hivyo hatuoni kama tutakuwa na uchaguzi utakuwa na haki na ukweli. So wangejaribu warekebishe, kwa sababu we still have more time, kama miezi 7 zijazo. Warekebishe, waangalie, na isiwe kwamba upinzani, katika ngome za upinzani ndio kunatokea majambo kama haya, kwa sababu tumesikia viongozi ambaye ni kinara wa CORD Raila Odinga akilalamika mara kwa mara kuhusu hizi vipatakilishi vyao hizi za kuandikisha watu zimeleta yani zinawasumbua mara kwa mara, unasikia unaenda.
Asante Ali, that is Ali calling us from right here in Nairobi. Of course, that is something we have talked about, the issue of technical hitches by the IEBC. But let's talk about the numbers now, gentlemen. And from the first 2 weeks, the first 10 days of this final mass voter registration exercise, is that these are numbers from the IEBC, 169,000 in terms of the regional numbers, the old provinces. Rift Valley has 169,000 new voters. Central Kenya has almost 140,000. Nyanza has 95,000. Jared, what does this say about, you know, the opposition stronghold that is Nyanza? Just given those 3 regions, what does it say about your stronghold as the opposition?
Firstly, Ben, I think it is...
Does it say that you're not coming out, the people there are not coming out to register as voters, do you think?
Well, first things first. I think it is critical that when an anomaly such as double registration comes onto the surface, then it is important for NASA or CORD to come forward and let the public know about it. And each time they have done so, they have sought the intervention of IEBC to have the issues rectified. But what we have constantly been met with is Jubilee responding on behalf of IEBC. When we say there is a problem with double registration, we are not casting aspersions on anybody. But for Jubilee to move so quickly to respond like a headless chicken, then we nurture and we entertain our own suspicions. You remember that in the last elections, there were issues with transmission of results that was alleged to be moving to some call center manned by Jubilee before it moved to Bomas of Kenya. So this is a snake that has bitten us, and we will not take it lying down.
All right.
Now, the numbers that you're talking about more or less are representative of the populations in various regions. Everybody knows that Rift Valley is the highly populated, the most highly populated region in this country, followed by Central Kenya, Nyanza, and Western. And you can see from what you have is totally representative of that. But I am also saying that when those double registration issues arise, then it only affects CORD people, and the second person is either from Rift Valley or from Central Province. And therefore, we are also asking, how legitimate are those figures that are being posted by IEBC? Is somebody cooking figures somewhere? Because again...
Why do you say cooking? Why do you think somebody might be cooking figures, yet you said it is representative of...
Yeah, at a mundane level, that is representative of what happens out there. But a serious question has been brought forth of double registration, affecting those in NASA, but the second person is either from Rift Valley or Jubilee. So that is just on the surface. We don't really know what is now beneath the surface. And finally, each time we bring issues that must be handled by IEBC, IEBC now has a full secretariat and it has the composition of commissioners. They should respond, but we don't ask dwellers of this world and others to respond on behalf of IEBC.
All right, let me ask you, I'll come to you, Mheshimiwa, on something that he has said about those numbers being representative of the population. For Western Kenya, I think it recorded slightly more than 60,000. But Western Kenya has a high population, and a very high population of Kenyans who are above 18 years of age.
Actually, personally, I have no room to quarrel with the numbers. For the time being, I'll take the numbers as they are. The only aspect of those numbers I want to be considered, when you take the numbers of Rift Valley and you take the numbers of Central, and then you compare them only, all right, with the numbers of Nyanza and Western, CORD has support. That should include the numbers of coasts and the numbers of Eastern. Just a minute to make Nairobi to make a valid comparison.
All right.
Now the figures are being cited in a skewed manner so that you create a
No. We have figures of all the provinces.
Yes, now,
we did give the figures of all the provinces.
The question then, if you add the figures from the CORD strongholds, all of them, not Western and Nyanza only, you add all of them.
Right.
For example, if you take Rift Valley and Central, you're talking about 340,000 registered, all right? If you take these others, the stronghold of the opposition, what numbers do you get?
All right.
That is when you are making a valid comparison.
But Prof, before you continue, my analysis of that was just to find out how Kenyans are coming out to register, not who has the numbers.
I am coming. Thank you for the clarification.
All right.
The second thing is quite clear that the CORD strategy for mobilizing voters to vote is not working.
All right.
Largely because there is a missing component. The leaders are talking, but there are no foot soldiers on the ground making sure people get up and go and vote. All right? And nobody is doing the implementation. Everybody is politicking. What I think they should do first and foremost is that they should make sure they have a functional strategy, not just a talking strategy. And quite clearly, instead of defending it, they should be critically asking themselves, how come we are doing so badly on the ground, and yet we are on the road 24/7?
All right. Let me come to Mheshimiwa before I go to Dismas.
Yes, and please, Ben.
Yes.
When you are giving them one minute, you give me 3. Because you know it is 3 against 1, which is also okay.
Well, they are not in NASA.
Ben.
These are neutral.
Yeah.
But you can hear.
It's just him against
the same
me.
language, it is obvious. Now, the point is, the truth of the matter, for the first time, I'm almost agreeing with the Prof. Some of these people are very good in talking, everywhere talking. They are very good in planning, in coming up with strategies. But when it comes to implementation, very, very poor. Look at even, if I take you back, and then I come back to the point. The famous 2007 elections, people are busy somewhere making cabinet lineup instead of going to tallying center and making sure you already have what you are planning for. Now, coming back to the current scenario, I've told you for over 2 weeks I've been on the ground. What have I been doing? Even sometimes using my own personal resources to ensure you ferry people from point A to ensure they go and register.
Yes.
Now, others are just talking in Nairobi, telling us how elections are being planned to be rigged. Yet, even the numbers, the basic, we can see you have already failed. Point number 2, and my final point, is, for over a year now, I've been seeing, I think, some leaders in this country, it is like they are preparing this country to reject the next elections by way of behaving, by way of utterances, and by way of sentiments to wipe emotions of citizens against others. If I ask, where did we get the notion that Nyanza is for this one is for this one? Why are we segmenting this country?
All right.
Who said I cannot support either Jubilee or CORD from whichever point I am?
Good point. Good point. Let's now take a call from Vincent calling us from the county of Kericho. Vincent, good morning. What do you have to say in our discussion this morning?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm much concerned when sometimes when Duale is responding to court people, the court people are asking ITV in a podium. Then the Jubilee perception is that is a political. So in the end, they will have to respond in a political manner. So when court says we are asking ITC, I think they should be visiting ITC's office instead of asking in any rally.
All right.
So I think that is the question. And again, the court people, I'm saying they should have a strategy where they are going to ensure that their numbers, which are asked to be captured, should not be in a political as they are talking like, for example, they are choosing to believe that there is always a rigging. So the people might be tired of hearing this thing of rigging.
All right. Thank you, Vincent. Vincent Kiplaga there from Kericho talking about strategies. The numbers, Dismas, the numbers don't lie. These are official numbers from the IEBC. What do they tell you when you look at them?
Actually, when you look at the numbers keenly, like for instance, if you look at Kilifi, they've been doing an average of 10,000 new voters per day, which is really a good number. And the only place, if you look at the matrix carefully, which raises concerns is Western Kenya. And one of the NASA candidates, Musalia Mudavadi, has indicated that there are people in Western Kenya, when you tell them to go and register, they ask you, what's the need for me? They want to be given an incentive, they want to be given a bribe to go and vote. And I think it reflects the general popular thinking. There are, during election time, you come, we vote for you, and you're one of us, and then a few years later, you become rich, you become a millionaire, and you are not able to see you. So majority of Kenyans are not able to see the return on investment on voting. And I think that's a fallacy that the politicians need to turn upside down. And then number 2, we need to ask ourselves the role of Major General Kaiseri and the former provincial administration. Yes. Because he's been holding court with a number of chiefs and telling them, especially within the so-called Jubilee strongholds, to release the IDs with a lot of efficiency. And he tells them that if you want me to retain my job, please go give out these IDs, make sure that people register, and at the actual day, they go and cast their ballots. And I wish that these are directives which applies through the entire nation, so that anybody who is above the age of 18 who actually went to register, or rather register as a Kenyan, and his ID is lying somewhere, is given back the ID. And there are some sections from Western Kenya who've been complaining that in as much as you get back your ID, it comes with a bit of a complication on the names. Like, for instance, if my name is supposed to be M-O-K-U-A, it comes with an H at the end. And these are issues that one is not able to verify. So there's need for Major General Kaiseri to reissue that directive again so that it covers the entire breadth of the nation. That if your ID is somewhere, if the chief is supposed to release the ID, they do it without any sort of favorism. But still, be that as it may, the code strategy for getting out the voters is zero, because the same voter you have in Western Kenya has got the same thinking like the voter in Central Province. How come President Kenyatta is able to tell his supporters to go and register in truckloads, while Raila Odinga is unable to tell his supporters to do the same? So they must relook at the message and give them a very good incentive.
All right.
But the pertinent issue here is that the new chairman, Chebukati, he made an announcement which on a normal day would have shocked the nation, that you've got about 128,000 people with that double registration. So you begin to wonder, if the last election was won by merely a margin of 8,000 votes, how does this compare into the larger global mathematics? And how is it possible that an organization in the caliber of IBC does not have a functional software? You've got a software which allows for double registration. And how come Isaac Hassan did not respond to that issue? And I think those are some of the issues that both Jubilee and CORD should raise, so that we have a very solid register.
Right.
At the end of the day, during the August scoreboard, we don't want anybody from Jubilee or CORD crying foul that IBC was not functional.
I want us to talk about strategies, but before we do that, let's talk about chiefs.
One bit of chiefs.
Yes, I wanted to come to you.
Yes. Just an information.
All right.
Just a point of information. Every chief, every assistant chief in this country has a budget now. I sit in National Security Committee of Parliament, and we budgeted for it, and they have it. So even as CORD and Jubilee move out there to urge their supporters and the Kenyans to come and register in large numbers, they need to know it is part of the responsibility of this administration should not be partisan. They are there to serve the Kenyans. So whether you are in Nyando, you are in Yatta, you are in where, you are serving Kenyans. And since now they have a budget, they have means of transport, they have the infrastructure in the name of community policing and this Nyumba Kumi initiative, they can use that structure to ensure each and every Kenyan, every part of this country comes out to register.
That's great. Here's a question.
Yes.
Why has the Interior Secretary, General Joseph Nkaiseri, just been issuing these very strong orders only in Jubilee strongholds?
It's unfortunate of the venue. It's very unfortunate of the venue where he meant such statements. But I'm sure if he was either in Kisumu or in somewhere in Eldoret, he would have issued such a directive, because it should cover every part of this country. Remember, the former provincial administration falls squarely under the Minister of Interior, whose the CS is General Kaiseri. So I think the manner in which he issued the statement and venue where he issued the same statement could raise some issues. But I'm sure that statement covered every chief, every assistant chief in the Republic.
Ben, that is not true. About a week ago, General Kaiseri clearly stated that any chief in opposition stronghold who will get involved in mobilization of voters will face the wrath. And that was public. But then if he goes to Jubilee stronghold, he changes tune. So that is something that creates a lot of worry. But last Friday, I was privileged to move around my constituency to look at the trend of voter registration. In one of the polling stations, Boya Primary School, in Onjikawasi Ward of Kisumu County, people, the clerks were there with their machines, 2 days running, but the machines just failed to function. I had to intervene and make some frantic phone calls up to Nairobi so that could be rectified, only to realize that the battery that they have which should actually be charged by solar system, wasn't working. So they later on brought another replacement, which also refused to work, and the returning officer had to personally come with a contingent of staff members to rectify the situation. But that was after 2 days had been lost. So yes, you would blame Nyanza certain times for low registration, but the moment you delay people for 2 days, and these are people who have to fend for their livelihood, I mean, that is not the work they do.
All right.
And they stated clearly, the IBC commissioners, that the machine should take between 5 to 7 minutes registering a person. But if people have to be stationed at a place for 2 days, then that negates the entire purpose.
All right.
So I
point.
think IBC must rectify those anomalies so that people are registered in good time.
I want to make 3 points. First one, it is a myth to state that a chief and an assistant chief will serve the opposition and the government of the day fairly. In practice, it doesn't happen. I have been out there in part of Kisii. You go to a place, for example, Kisii is very coded, right? Now, if you go to Bomet, where I have some relatives, now you will find, and this is where I want to go back to IBC, the deployment of personnel of IBC, all right, staff out in the field is part of the problem that we are seeing. For example, you will find, for example, a person from Kieni in Nyeri is the one responsible for making sure there is registration. A person from Busia is the one responsible for Busia. So what happens essentially, you end up getting that person from that area working entirely for the political power in that particular area. There is what I would call an ill-advised system of deployment, whereby, because of that, you will find, and this happened in the last election, the issue I want to raise is this: did IBC learn any lessons from the mistakes made in 2007 and 2013? They have not reviewed this so that they produce a fresh recipe of corrective measures.
All right.
As a result of that, for example, in 2013, you would find, and I witnessed this myself, I voted in Nairobi, one person comes, is given, one name is crossed, but is given 5 ballots. He goes in the ballot box with the 5 ballots. And that is taken care of by those dead voters who are in the register, who get cancelled. Then when you have these locally deployed people to their home bases, the election voting period is stopped at 6 o'clock. But in those areas, the people are still voting at 10 p.m.
All right.
So that you find a place that is accessible, let's say like Kigumo here, the results can't come until 1 a.m.
All right.
Largely because there's been ongoing manipulation.
Good point, but we're jumping the gun. We're going to the elections. We're still registering voters. Let's talk about the last issue before we wind up the show, and that is the strategy. Let me start with you going that way. Yeah. Prof, what strategy is Jubilee using? What strategy is CORD using? What strategy is working? What's not working for both sides?
From the figures that you see now, the Jubilee strategy of registering voters is working. And I'll tell you the difference. When I meet a CORD supporter in Sondu, he thinks it is Raila's job to ask people to vote. When I meet a Jubilee supporter in Thika, he's asking everybody on the ground, other than the political leaders, are asking people to go and vote. Out there, people are expecting either rewards or some sort of inducement to go and register. So the strategic effectiveness, the implementation of the strategy is different. CORD is not implementing, it is talking about the strategy. Jubilee is implementing up to the grassroots.
All right.
So the grassroots momentum in the Jubilee control areas is high, whereas on the other side there is basically no momentum.
What do you think about what Prof is saying, Jared? Because in Raila Odinga's political rallies, the crowds are impressive. So where is the disconnect?
Well, I don't see any disconnect. I think 95,000 for Nyanza, 75,000 for Western Kenya is impressive, alongside other regions where CORD has absolute control. You know, again, what we have done is we have designed the county committees that work in collaboration with the sub-county committees. And deep down the sub-county committees, we have condensed it further down to have ward representatives, so that you have a team that is doing mobilization right from the grassroots atop to the county level. And it is working and it is effective. Naturally, when you have registration such as what is going on now, you would expect a very high turnout in the first week. And then definitely and naturally there will be a lull until the last 2 weeks. Then you are going to see another surge. So what is happening now is as much as a teething problem, but that is that was inevitable.
But do you believe your strategy is working?
It is working. It is working, and as I said, the people who are registered is very representative of the population of these regions.
All right, Mheshimiwa, what do you think about the strategy that Jubilee is using and the opposition?
Obviously, opposition seems not to have any strategy. But I think what you have read, what you have seen is a photo of one side of confidence, another one loss of confidence. Because you mobilize us and you abandon us somewhere in the street. You just get whatever you wanted and that is all. People are used. From 2007, people are getting to learn some of us. So there is no strategy at all. It is a fault of one side is confidence, another one is lack of confidence, which is opposite of confidence.
All right.
Number 3, which is the final. And you remember I told you, when you are giving them a minute, you give me 3. The current voter is not the same as a voter of 10 years ago. In fact, I congratulate any voter who is saying, what is inside there for me? Because we are used, kabila hii, sijui nani, sijui region hii, for nani, and then after that, nani kufika pale, there is nothing.
All right.
One side of coalition is selling agenda, where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going. Another one, they don't know even where they are coming from.
All right, question for you. What's happening in Yatta in 30 seconds only? Is Wiper wiping your place, or have you been doing some good work?
We are doing a lot of things there, a lot of good things. You need to just go independently and see.
All right, I'll pay a visit to Yatta.
Yes.
What is your take on strategy?
Ben, 3 things that come to mind. Number 1,
yes,
when you look at the initial figures, barring the last-minute strategy that all of us like doing, even when it comes to KRA registration and paying your dues,
yes,
most of us want to do it at the last minute, would actually even cry for an extension. Maybe that could be a factor in the Kenyan political space. But again, number 2, when you look at Central Kenya and Rift Valley, the common denominator is that these two communities have actually tested power. So probably they understand the power of voting. They know that if you vote and your tribal chief becomes a president, there's a very high chance that there's going to be a road coming through your neighborhood, or your brother or cousin is going to get a position. And that's
has
not
that been the case, though?
Well, I mean, really, it's about family.
People have been crying foul.
It's about family and friends. And if you go to you're opening a Pandora's box. If you go to the issue of corruption, if you go to Afya Center, people insist that it's about family and friends. So the sections of that community who know that if I do not mobilize people to go and vote, if there's another administration, I'll have no opportunity to influence the award of tenders. So they actually go the extra mile. And that's what Professor said, that there are people who are moving on their own motion in parts of Central Kenya and Rift Valley, because they want to be sure that the current political leadership, or the current political, or rather the status quo, is maintained for them to keep on accessing power. But if you speak to a normal rich man in Nyando, a friend of Jared Okello, he does not know understand the meaning of power. Even if there is tenders allocated for the Kenyan youth or for the marginalized, they don't know what that means, so there's no incentive. And again, number 2, if you look at the geographical space, the spread is so huge, especially in Western Kenya. So for you to stop doing your business on a daily basis, you may actually need to spend hours on end to go and register. But I think the third and most important item is for that Major General Kaiseri also to go to the so-called opposition areas within the court strongholds and issue the same warnings, the same instructions he gave out to the chiefs and assistant chiefs. It's unfair for Professor Tumbo to say that we should expect that because Major General Kaiseri is employed by President Kenyatta, he can only favor the Jubilee side. Right. I think he's employed, he's paid by taxpayers, in as much as President Kenyatta's family has got 3 trillion, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Major Kaiseri's salary does not come.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dismas. I have 1 minute, and I'll give it to the two of you, 30 seconds each. Why do you think Amina Mohammed has done totally nothing in the Jubilee government, and why do you think the opposite is true? So it's 1 minute. In the blue corner, I have Dismas. In the red corner, I have Dismas. 30 seconds.
You've immediately branded me a Democrat if I was in the US. But when you look at Ambassador Amina Mohammed, from the time she came to office, she has told us that Kenya has signed so many bilaterals and multilaterals with so many countries across the world, which are supposed to create opportunities for the Kenyan. It would be important for her to table the numbers and say, for instance, I went to Angola, we signed a bilateral. This is how Kenyans have been beneficiaries. Again, we go back to family and friends. All those international business trips that Ambassador Amina Mohammed has been making,
yes,
they are not representative of Kenya.
All right.
It's the same delegation which goes.
Thank you.
So there are a few guys who have been beneficiaries, but not poor Wanjiku in the village.
What do you say to that? 30 seconds only.
30 seconds. I first by congratulating him. I hear he has already been endorsed somewhere. I wish him well. About
You've already wasted 10 seconds.
Amina, let's be fair to Ambassador Amina. This is a career diplomat. And when she was appointed as CS, we have seen the high-level business delegation that has come to this country. We have also seen a number of multinational financing institutions that also are supporting projects in this country. We have also seen, in terms of diplomacy, she is in charge of Kenyan foreign policy, and you can see Kenya it can even today relate with Iran, relate with the US, relate with the UK, and then she has done pretty well.
I'll make sure to continue this with more time. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the show. Dismas Mokua, political analyst, member of parliament for Yatta constituency, Francis Mwangangi, Jared Okello, code strategist and governance expert, Professor Eri Tumbo. Thank you so much. Also, we leave it on the broadcast this morning. Many thanks for joining us. Be sure to join us every Sunday morning between 10 a.m. and 12 noon as we dissect the big political issues in this country in the run-up to the 2017 August 8th general election. As we leave you, let's leave you with the sound of the week, and we leave you with the Interior Secretary, Joseph Nkaiseri, who has been mentioned adversely on this show, of course, talking about different issues in this marked voter registration exercise. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Kitili. See you on Sunday.
Sasa mtu anakuja anatusi watu, anasema iko wizi ya kura hapa, na mtu hana ushahidi. Kila siku watu wanatembea kusema kura inaibiwa. Sasa kura itapigwa miezi 6 ijayo. Sasa kura imeibiwa miezi 6, hata hatujafika 6 months. Ama namna gani nyinyi ndugu zangu? Sio ni incitement. Nadanganya watu, kila siku tunaibiwa. Sasa kama wizi ndio inazidi, kwa nini wewe hapana iba? Kama hiyo ndio style yako, kila siku nalia, wizi ya kura. Si wewe ni mwanaume, si uibe pia?